All right, we're live. HCPX. It is Hump Day. It's Wednesday. Beautiful week going on. And I'm here joined by D Style Boxing. If you're watching this in the archive, put your X's up in the comment section. Leave your comments, concerns, all that stuff. You got anything bad to say? Just forward it over to D Style's channel. If you got anything bad to
Cool.
say,
Give us
positive
that
stuff.
X. Yeah, no, for sure. And speaking of positive stuff, give us those hundreds. What's the goal, Alex? Every show, what's our goal?
100 likes. So get those likes up. If you're tuning in right now, just hit that X button in the comment section real quick and then hit the like and then go right back to the comment section. That's all we
100%.
ask. Almost to 100 likes on the show last night already. So good thing. Good show last night. Wanted to start off the show today with Manny Pacquiao. The news is Pacquiao was denied entry into possibly fighting in the Olympics, which was apparently his goal to fight in the Olympics. He's too old. He's too old. There's an age limit, and he's too old. He's beyond the age limit. So, are you surprised by that news? And do you really believe that Pacquiao's goal here was to actually get in the Olympics, or was it to just get himself in the news cycle?
I mean, if Pacquiao wants to get on the news cycle, there's plenty of other things he could do. Like, you know what I mean? All you just got to do is say, I want to fight Mayweather again, and then boom, news cycle. You know what I mean?
True.
But no, look, I honestly do think he wanted to fight in the Olympics. And we may disagree on this, but I'm glad he wasn't allowed. Like, what do you mean you want to just get in the Olympics? Like, just because your name is Manny Pacquiao?
Could you
Because
imagine the ratings? Could you imagine? You don't think Pacquiao's above? Like, you think Pacquiao has to go through the process and actually?
yes,
Why?
no one's above the
He's a
process.
legend. He's a legend.
No, you gotta go. You gotta qualify. You gotta win qualifiers. You gotta you don't just get in because your name's Manny Pacquiao. Like, hey, everybody, I'm Manny
Why not?
Pacquiao. Like,
Why not? Why
what do you
not?
mean? Why not? I already explained why. Because there's a process involved. You got to go through the process. You can't just skip the line. You may
He's
get good ratings just get Manny Pacquiao in, right? And when the old man gets beat, because the Olympic style is a lot different, by the way, he would lose, right?
he would
Uh,
lose. He would
100%.
lose.
100% he would lose.
Give me a break. He would. That's the reason that he's not allowed to compete. Is he would get in there and batter these poor amateurs in there. He would batter them. He would knock them all out.
First of all, I learned this myself. It's not proper to call them amateur boxers. It's Olympic style
Oh,
boxing.
Olympic style boxing. My bad.
Olympic style boxing
My bad.
because here's the thing, it's a different style of fight. There's a reason a lot of these dudes that are great pros couldn't really cut it for the Olympics, that never won gold medals, etc. It's a very fast pace fencing with gloves, and I've heard this, by the way, from a lot of pros that have told me that they hate sparring amateurs because it's just completely different,
Mm.
and they're a pain in the ass to deal with. And for at least for like they're masters of rounds 1 through 3, they're masters at it at what they're doing, right? Because the pace is different, everything's different. You can't ideally fight that way for 12 rounds or 10 rounds. You just can't. You have to pace yourself differently in the pros. But with that said, good. Okay, Manny. How greedy is Manny Pacquiao? By the way, I know he comes off as
Come
humble.
on.
He comes off as humble and a good guy, and
Come
he is a good
on.
guy. But like, look, like, come on, how many weight classes again? 6, 7, 8,
He won 8.
8 weight classes,
Competed in 11, 12.
multiple weight classes, world champion. Okay, all these accolades he's made. He's been in the number one record-breaking pay-per-view event of all time, multiple events, millions of dollars,
He
rags to
just wants to
riches.
add a gold medal to it. What's wrong with
And he's
chasing
not happy
greatness?
with that. He wants to go like get a poor Filipino kid that earned his stripes. He wants to pull him out of line.
Come on. That nobody's ever going to hear anything
How do
about.
you
Come
know?
on.
How do you know? Maybe that Filipino's going to be somebody in the future. Like, how do you know, right?
He still could be.
And what if? And what if that is his only dream? That's his one time, right? Hey, mom, I made it to the Olympics, and Manny Pacquiao just shows up. Oh, sorry,
Sorry.
kid. You could watch. We'll give you front row tickets, I guess.
Yeah, sorry.
No, there is no sorry. Manny Pacquiao does not
Life is
belong in the
tough,
Olympics.
kid. Life is tough, kid. The arguable goat of this generation wants to compete. come up off your spot. That's how that works.
Well, they
That's
obviously
how work.
disagree with you because he got no exemption. Okay, and he ain't going to be in the Olympics. If Pacquiao wants to help, he could do an exhibition on opening night or something with somebody. I don't know. He could help promote the Olympics. He could go like, look at Jake Paul. He's going to help support Team USA with social media and stuff, and he's going to be there with them during the Olympics. Why can't Manny Pacquiao do that for the Filipino team? Like go over there, show support, have your presence there, be part of the an honorary coach on the team. There's a lot of things he could do to bring the profile up of the Olympics.
Aren't they concerned about ratings? Could you imagine the ratings bonanza if Pacquiao competed in the Olympics in boxing? And now nobody's going to care. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest about this. And look, I care for these athletes. I hope they do get the ratings. I hope they're successful, all this stuff. But let's be honest about this. Olympic boxing just isn't it. I think they're actually talking about cutting it, aren't they? At some
Well,
point?
it's not what you think it is. They're not cutting it, Calix, because it, they think it's boring or something. It has nothing to do with that. First of all, have you seen some of these Olympic sports? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
Olympic style boxing is amazing compared to a lot of these
They're about
sports.
to have pickleball, I think, at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Like you know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But
Just
um,
sing the
it
national
was
anthem.
it was Aiba, it was Aiba corruption.
Yeah.
Okay, Aiba corruption. It was the main reason, but the IOC didn't get rid of it. They took over it themselves while they found a replacement sanctioning body. That's what they're doing. That's pretty much what it is. But
And they're not going to turn it into a circus act, right? They want to keep it.
yeah, like at the end of the day, they should fix this aspect of it. But Olympic style boxing isn't really a spectator sport. That's unfortunate.
Mhm.
I think they should make it more of a spectator sport. They're trying to make it as safe as possible, but still, like it's, but that's part of like to keep it an Olympic sport. They don't want it to, they don't want it all bloody and like the pros. But if you want to watch more physical amateur boxing, then you watch the Golden Gloves. You know, I mean, right there they fight more pro style. It's better in my opinion. But one thing that cannot be denied is that they're great athletes in the Olympics, and the reality is, USA has been trying to gold medal in the men's side in a way for since Andre Ward, and they can't because there's all these amazing athletes from Ukraine, from Russia, from Cuba, from all over the world, and it's tough, and there's a lot of great athletes and the fact that boxing is in the Olympics is the reason a lot of these countries invest so much money in the boxing program. And then when those fighters turn pro, we get the Lomachenkos, we get the Better Beeves, we get a lot of these great fighters. Unfortunately, Triple G. Unfortunately, because they take care of those athletes so well, they don't really have an incentive to turn pro, right?
Mhm.
But hopefully some of them can start turning pro a little earlier. Like in my opinion, Alex, I think the age limit should be changed to 30.
Mm.
That's my opinion. 30, you're out. That's it. You know what I mean? At 40 is too high, in my opinion. Because I think we would get a lot of these guys to turn pro a lot sooner, in my opinion. But that's what I think. But I don't want the Olympic program to go away.
Me
Um,
neither.
Look, it's not as exciting as the pros is. It just isn't. But it has its place. It has a purpose, and it incentivizes countries to invest in a lot of these great athletes.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of them. So I don't want it to go anywhere.
Great points. Great points to end it off. And in all seriousness, though, I'm not hurt by this, and
You
probably
know,
a
lose its
good.
sleep. You know, lose its sleep.
No, not at all. And I actually think that I think he's throwing stuff at the wall right now. If I could just, in conclusion with Manny Pacquiao, I don't think we've seen the last of him. My instincts tell me that he's not going to end his career off with Ugas. I don't know if there's going to be just one comeback fight to end it, or if there's a possible novelty-ish type fight that actually counts. Because I don't think he's built the way that Mayweather is to where he's just going to fight exhibition fights. I don't think
Yeah,
he's
you're
happy
right.
with exhibition fights, but I do think the itch is there for him. And I think if the right opportunity comes along with a lot of money in a fight that he believes he can win, then we
Mm.
may see him back. Like possibly a guy that's smaller than him coming up that he feels like he can win. I don't know. But I don't think we've seen the end of him. That's just
I have my concerns about Pacquiao, though.
what's that?
Well, he just strikes me as a lot of what you mentioned. He strikes me as he's not going to let go until somebody just beats it out of him, and I don't
That's
know
what
if
I'm
I want
saying.
to see that happen. You know what I mean?
Ugas didn't beat. Ugas outclassed him, but he
Yeah.
didn't beat it out of him.
I mean, like, is it going to take like look at it took somebody to knock Bernard Hopkins out of the ring at age 50
Joe
for him to
Lewis
say,
too.
yeah, for him to say, you know what, I think that's it. I think I'm good. Like that's what it took. Like, god damn, like
Yep.
that is crazy, man. And I haven't heard Pacquiao say it, but Hopkins was hit all the time. Like, well, boxing not to retire me. Like,
Yep.
Jesus Christ. Look at Roy Jones. He wouldn't let go, bro. Roy Jones was like that dude that kept remembering his days in high school and shit. He just kept going back. Like, it is what it is.
He'll probably still fight again, Roy Jones. So
I mean, is losing a decision that many felt he actually won, but they robbed him, from what I hear. But is losing a decision to an MMA fighter not enough? Like, is that like that's not enough for Roy? Like, you know what? Maybe that's it.
yep. You're right. You're
He
right.
beats that dude with one hand, like just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, like, that. I think it was Pettis. He even admitted he's like, yeah, he's kind of amazing. He's almost 60. He was giving me a good fight. Like, why is Roy still fighting? Like, what? I just don't get it. What the fuck's going on? He was still
Yeah.
fast and strong for his age. Why are you fighting a dude that's almost 60? What's going on? But yeah, Pacquiao.
True.
Hopefully, it doesn't go that far, Calix. Hopefully, but this is a guy that got knocked out cold by Marquez, and people counted him out, and he got back up and had another run. So he might just be one of those guys. Like, age is just a number, and yeah, I lost, but I could always come back. And he may believe in himself, like, you know what I mean. So I don't know. I just hope his wife just talks him out of it. He just retires and enjoys the fruits of his labor, and that's it.
Yep. Shout out to
Let
Jakey.
Isaac Cruz make you your money. You know, Isaac Cruz got you. You know what I mean? He's promoting Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz are bringing that back from him. I'm just saying.
Bring in the bag. Next topic: Boots Ennis. IBF is ordering he and Cody Crowley to come to some sort of agreement by March 1st for a fight. First of all, I like this because it's going to spin us off into several topics that I want to talk about. But what's your initial thoughts on that possible fight?
I actually like the fight.
Yeah,
I don't mind the fight at all. I think Crowley is I don't know how to word it. Solid. He's a solid fighter. You know what I mean?
he's deceptively athletic. Is that what you're saying?
He's I mean, he's athletic, but it's not the first word that comes to mind. But he's good though. He's a good fighter. He's just not at the level of an Ennis, in my opinion. Um, but there's a lot of questions about Ennis, right? That Romain Villa fight for whatever reason didn't convince people. I thought it was a good performance, but I'm in the
I did
minority.
too.
Well, you and I agree, but some people are like, they weren't impressed. Maybe they don't think much of Villa. I do. I think Villa's a good fighter. I'll be honest. I don't know who would win between Villa and Crowley. I just don't. But I think Ennis beats him by decision. I don't think he takes him out. But I think he gets tested. I think Ennis wins like an 8-4, 9-3 ish type decision. I think the second half he just sweeps him 6-0, and probably drops him once or twice. But I think Crowley is he's tough as nails, and usually those deceptively athletic guys are really tough. You know what I mean? But
high
yeah,
high IQ.
yeah, they're very tough. But yes, that's how I see the fight. I like the fight. You know what? It's
I
better
did
than
too.
Calix.
What's
It's
that?
better than not fighting.
Yes.
It's better than staying inactive. Like, just fight somebody, bro. Fight
Yes.
Calix. I'll be in Calix's corner. Just fight him.
I'll take the money and I'll take a dive.
I mean, I'm just well, you can now. You already like said it out loud. Like, but
Oh, my bad. My bad.
yeah, but
I'll fight hard and I'll take the money.
yeah, that's right. I'll be in Calix's corner. You know, trying to convince him not to quit. You know what I mean? Just come on, Calix. You got it in you. But I like the fight. Me personally. So,
I
what's
do
one
too.
from Canada? It's from Canada, right?
Yeah, he's from Canada. Yeah, he's from Canada. I like him. I like the fight. But so let's talk about that first. I like that the IBF is getting things moving. Let's get things moving. Let's get these guys to.
You're a disgrace in Japan, by the way, saying you would take a dive. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Like,
my bad. The kamikaze though, kamikaze mission. But I like the fight. Like you said, it's better than not fighting, but it's actually a quality top 10 fight. And that's what you want from Boots Ennis moving forward. The issue that I have with these fighters is Cody Crowley's 11 months inactive right now. So by the time he fights Boots Ennis, if this fight comes off, supposedly it's being possibly planned for
mm,
the Canelo undercard, a co-main, which would be a lot of eyeballs on Boots Ennis.
yeah.
So we'll say with Boots Ennis, he's still fighting on undercards, which is tough, right? He's still fighting on undercards, but if you're going to fight on an undercard, that's the one you want to fight on. These guys are so inactive. Cody Crowley would be at that point 14 months inactive. Boots Ennis, even, I felt like he should have got another fight in by now. He's going to be, I believe, 10 months inactive at that point, 9-10 months inactive. There just seems to be a lot of inactivity coming from that group of fighters over there that were on Showtime. Cody Crowley, last we saw him, he was saying he retired on social media. I don't know if you caught that. A couple months
Yes,
ago, he
a
retired.
story. Put a story up. Yes.
That he retired. So I think a lot of these fighters are getting frustrated. They want to speak out. They don't feel like they can speak out. We saw Stephen Fulton Jr. last week say he's frustrated with not fighting. So you got a lot of guys not fighting. But this at least gets Boots Ennis headed in the right direction. Let me play a clip for you, and I want you to react to this clip. You don't know what I'm about to play, but I want you to react to it. It's probably the first time seeing this. This is Fight Hub TV interviewing Timothy Bradley, and Timothy Bradley has some comments about Boots Ennis, and I'll play it for you, and you can react.
Why is he chasing Crawford? Don't chase the bag. Make yourself a name. Make a name for yourself. You know, he just want to go straight to the top, and it's like, bro, Crawford's on a different level, different pay scale. You know, Crawford's at the penthouse. This kid is he's at sea level. Terrence now, you know, is that guy. He's that guy. You know, 10, 15 million. You know, he's that guy, man. So, in order for him to move, it gotta be worth it. You know, he's not gonna just do it. I don't think that Boots, although it would be a good fight, and I got T in the fight, Terrence winning that fight. It's just will he get paid for it? And that's the thing. Why is he chasing Crawford?
I remember seeing that. Look, I'll say this. All right.
There's a lot to unpack there, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, there is. First of all, it does. You know what came to mind? The Glenn Jennings kind of philosophy. Just keep it moving, making it for yourself. We're gonna keep this train's not gonna stop. We're not gonna keep it on hold again. Like we waited for Jamal. You know, so he's kind of giving them that advice. And it's good advice because look, Bradley's he is one of those guys that made his own path. He is, right? He went to England to fight Junior Witter without a rematch clause, by the way. But that has nothing to do like that.
Yep. With $21 in his bank account, he said.
Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Like he's like, I'm gonna go out there in his backyard and beat him so decisively, which he did. Yep. Junior Witters was nothing to scoff at. Like there was talks about him or Haddon, who was a better guy from the UK. They never fought, we never real, but he went out there.
Junior Witter was a big favorite in that fight.
Yeah, he goes out there, beats Junior Witter, and then Lamont Peterson, undefeated at the time, right? If you just say now, you go to Boxer or not, it doesn't look impressive, I guess. But if you
Devin Alexander,
he was undefeated, right? And guess what, Calix? I remember being on YouTube and or Block Talk, and multiple people, including myself, were picking Devin Alexander to win that fight. Okay. Mm-hmm. I remember a lot of people were picking Lamont Peterson to win that fight. These were 50-50 fights. I remember Holt hit him with a big shot, knocked him down. The guy got back up and he finished that fight strong, right? You know, what my point is, Bradley went out there and he stayed active. He won his fights, a lot of 50-50 fights on paper. He got the W's he needed to get. And guess what? He landed the Manny Pacquiao fight, right? It just came to him. He wasn't chasing it. He didn't sit around and just go on radio shows saying Manny Pacquiao's ducking me and hoping he gets a fight. No, he went out there and he built his own pavement, his own road. And so when Bradley says that, it's powerful because it's something he did. Okay.
Yeah.
So that it holds weight. Like nobody can tell him, well, why do you do that, Bradley? Well, he did do that. All right. So, and him saying that, maybe it's confirmation bias, but it kind of helps what we've been saying. Okay. So all I know is this: Boots, you got to be real, brother. Like the guys moved on to 154. If you're not moving up to 154, you're going to stay at 147. Good luck getting that fight. You're not going to get it. All right. Let's just be honest. Let's just move on. Maybe you'll get it down the line. I don't know. But right now, guys like Crowley, whoever's available, Crowley can't get a fight. You can't get a fight. You know what? It sounds like a good idea for you guys to fight each other. Okay, you got guys like Stanionis out there. You got Butayev. I always wanted to see Butayev versus Boots. It just sounds cool. Okay, but that's a fight you could do. Like, you know what I mean? There's plenty of fights out there that you could do, right? And stay active and fight often. I think you're young, like you're in your prime. Stay sharp. And if you stay sharp, your opportunities will come. Maybe you move on and maybe you move up to 154 and 160 one day. Maybe you get those Virgil fights, those Tim Tszyu fights. But waiting around for it, you might land it. And I know, like, it might seem like it because there's rumors that Jamal's going to get the Canelo fight. I don't know how true that is. He's a mess. Okay, guys begging to be on podcasts and get paid for it. I don't know what's going on with that. All right. We'll pay you $50 if you come on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll cash app it to you. Somebody tell Jamal. Diesel's got $50 cash app. Okay, but yeah, like just stay active, bro. I think this is a good fight. And there's other really good fighters at welterweight if you want to stay there. Are they big profile fights? Are they legacy fights? Not yet. We still don't know what Stanionis' career is going to look like down the line. We still don't know how, but just stay active right now, and everything will come. Everything will come full circle.
So this is the thing. He obviously hits on some points that we've been saying, right? We talked about this with Benavidez, Charlo, all those guys when it comes to Canelo. For years, right? Is they were calling out that fight, but they weren't doing anything at the same. They weren't fighting in each other. They all had access to each other. None of them were fighting each other, and they're waiting for Canelo to do the work and have the fight fall in their lap. And they're not becoming stars on their own. And that's what Timothy Bradley is saying here: is you're not on his level right now. Is he's up here because he put in the work, right? 18 title fights, all this stuff for years. He put in the work. Now he's here, and you are here. And the reason that Boots is here right now, look at Stanionis right now. We talk about inactivity, right? Stanionis is going on 2 years of inactivity. One of the most fun fighters to watch in the sport. And he's been inactive for almost 2 years. A lot of that had to do with the stuff going on with Virgil, but I got to be honest, like, find some other fight. Stop waiting around. We talked about that with Tim Tszyu last night, right? Is Tim Tszyu and his team just got it popping. They're like, we're worried about the dates because we know how this works. We're not going to sit around and wait for guys as they're messing around. We have our date pinpointed. A certain time we want to fight quarterly. We're going to fight. Whoever's ready, let's fight. Whoever's not, you lost out. Wait around for three or 4 months. You have your turn again. That's the way to do it. And that's what Timothy Bradley is saying here is he doesn't say it, but we've been talking about it for years, and he's alluding to it here is you had at 147. How many times have we said this? You had 7 out of 10 top 10 fighters at 147 undefeated. That just says fighters are not fighting each other. So as you had Gridlock up there, what are these guys doing? Boots is taking the IBF route, right? And while at the same time he's taking the IBF route, he's saying he wants a Bud Crawford fight. So that doesn't add up. Number one, he's sending mixed signals. When it comes to Stanionis, he tried for the Virgil fight. You got to give him credit. And he fought Butayev. You got to give him credit. But what has happened in the past 2 years? Nothing. These fighters are sitting and taking step-aside money. Stanionis could have had Errol Spence. Step-aside money. Step-aside money. Step-aside money. Step-aside money. So if you're taking the step-aside money, at least stay active in the process. And you got fighters not staying active, taking step-aside money, taking routes that do not make sense. Boots Ennis has been sending mixed signals. We've been saying it for years. Me, more so, I think I'm a little higher on Boots than you. I thought he looked very impressive in his last fight. But so you watch him fight, and it's frustrating because you say that guy can beat anybody. He can compete with anybody. He has that capability. He can be a star if they just unleash him, but nothing's happening. and he's saying, I want Bud Crawford, but he goes the IBF route. And then he's saying, now I want Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford's already said, I'm done at 147. So if you want Bud Crawford, move out to 154. That's where the bigger fights are going to be anyway. Just drop the belt that you waited around to be emailed to you. Just drop that belt and say, all right, I'm going to chase him up at 154. I'm going to just start mowing down competition up there at 154. But that's not what he's going to do. He's going to stay at 147, defend his belt. And look, it's a good start if he fights Cody Crowley, but the track record says he's going to fight Cody Crowley and not much is going to happen after that. We need to see things moving and going. But my frustration with Boots Ennis is he's specifically now calling out the Bud Crawford fight. He could have had it already. And now he's saying, I want this guy who's moving up to 154. Well, go chase him. Go chase him. But the bigger issue here is, we talked about it with multiple fighters. They're waiting around for things to happen. Benavidez, we said that for years. Boots, we've been saying it. Stanionis, instead of making their star power on their own. And there are guys doing it now. Tim Tszyu. What's the bigger fight, do you think? Is it Bud Crawford versus Tim Tszyu, or is it Bud Crawford versus Boots Ennis? Which one's in higher demand, do you feel?
Bud Crawford, Boots Ennis. What was the other one?
Bud Crawford versus Tim Tszyu.
Oh, Tim Tszyu.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's in higher demand. Why? If Tim Tszyu's just waiting around for big fights to come to him and not fight, especially if he's Australian, what's going to happen?
If Tim Tszyu, Calix, takes the American advice, I'm going to call it American advice for the sake of argument. I'm not saying it's the American way before somebody jumps on me, but do you remember when it was announced he's going to fight Tony Harrison, and Tony Harrison sits there on one of the, granted, this could have just been trash talk. I get that, but just for the sake of argument, Tony Harrison sits there and he goes, they asked him, did you commend Tim for taking this challenge, fighting the number 2 guy at the weight class when he has undisputed right there? And he literally goes, and I don't think it was trash talk. I think he was honest. I think it's stupid. I think I wouldn't have done this. If I had undisputed right there in my grasp, there's no way I fight a guy like me and risk it all. I think it's a dumb move, but I thank him for doing it. And yeah, but if he took that advice and didn't fight or something and just waited on Jermell, well, we know what Jermell was going to end up doing anyway. He ended up going up to fight Canelo. So he would have been Tim Tszyu would have been inactive for a year and a half, just waiting on Jermell Charlo.
Yep.
With no momentum. And then people would have been like, well, you should have done something about it. What are you doing? Right? Instead, he stayed active. He fought 3 times. He fought Tony Harrison, the only guy to ever beat Jermell Charlo, was actually winning the fight on points before he got stopped, by Jermell in the rematch. He stopped him. Mendoza knocked out the Tower Inferno, beat him. So at the end of the day, I think Tim Tszyu will make the right move, and I think that's not an Australian thing. That's not any UK thing, Japanese thing, Mexican thing. That's just a boxing thing. Stay active, fight as often as you can. I'm not saying go back to the Robinson days and fight 3 times a month. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I just think being active and keeping your profile out there, right, is extremely important, which for some reason, a lot of these guys don't understand. I'm reading, I don't know how true this is, just a comment on YouTube, but someone's saying that Stanionis is so broke, he could barely even train. I don't know what the situation with Stanionis is, okay? I don't know if it's that grave, but he hasn't fought in a while. You don't have income coming in. You're not growing your profile. You're not growing your brand. It's negative all around. It just is. Stanionis is a really good fighter, bro.
He's a legit, would you say, top 3-4 guy at the weight class now with the exodus of other guys?
100%. And guess what? I wouldn't have favored him against Spence, but maybe he does beat Spence.
That's a fight.
Hindsight.
That's a fight.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, it's like a fight of the year candidate, in my opinion. Like, I just think this is a guy that should be active. So hopefully we get things rolling, the ball rolling, and these guys start fighting more. All right. And do it the Tim Tszyu way, man. So stay active. Right?
We have too many guys fight chasing without actually putting in the work of chasing the fight. is what we have, and waiting for. We joke around about belts being emailed to guys, but fights falling in guys' laps. They just wait above them for these guys to be eliminated as they stay safe and climb up the ladder and sort of back into fights, right? And I think that's what Tim Bradley seems to be alluding to here is go out and do the work yourself. You don't need. I got to give Nando credit for this. He said in the chat, Benavidez does not need Canelo to become a star. He didn't. Had he been putting in the type of work he put in last year for 3-4 years, which he could have, but his promoter saying he's out there marinating for fights for 5 years. And now they're going to say, now they're openly saying, Sampson is openly saying, we're not going to fight Morrell Jr. until he gets a belt. Well, how in the hell is he going to get a belt? Sampson is out there saying, we need a belt and Morrell Jr. needs a belt for us to fight that fight. Last year, he was saying he was ready to fight that fight. They had that fight contractually. They were contractually obligated to that fight.
What belt? Like, this is why guys shouldn't talk. Like, look, I don't know, man. Like Andrade didn't have a belt. Lemieux didn't have a belt. I get those are mandated. Whatever you want to say. Everyone you fought except for Durrell and I think that's it. Didn't have a belt, bro.
Yep.
Okay, in recent years. Like I'm just saying, like, what are you talking about? Why now? That's a standard now. Canelo doesn't even say those things. Oh, get a belt, then I'll fight you. Canelo doesn't say that. Now
what belt? What belt are they going to get?
You might as well say, yeah, like you might as well just say no. But here's the thing. I think Morrell Benavidez is a damn good fight, and if for whatever reason Canelo Benavidez doesn't happen, that is a fight. It is.
Yep.
Like, oh, you just want what is it that they say?
You just want him to lose, so he's no longer a threat to Canelo.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's not that.
You want your two threats to knock each other out. So now you're limited. Like, what does that even mean, bro?
If Morrell Jr. beats Benavidez, then we have a scarier guy to face Canelo, right? That's even scarier. But the sad part about this is it's fight chasing, and it doesn't need to be this way. But the other point that I wanted to make is I'm starting to reach my limit with, and this is where I'll get myself in trouble with other Bud Crawford fans because I'm a fan. But I also don't want to hear him saying the things that Sampson is saying about other fighters right now. Because let's be honest, outside of Canelo versus Bud, is Bud really a pay-per-view draw against anybody else? Does any other pay-per-view that Bud Crawford would any other pay-per-view Bud would be involved in get to 500,000 pay-per-view buys? No, other than Canelo. And I think that's the reason he's calling him out. Because originally he said, I'm not going above 158. Those guys at middleweight are big. He's talking about a super middleweight. I think he's doing that because he knows that's the only pay-per-view out there that would be a draw for him, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is the same thing that Benavidez and his team are doing with other fighters like Morrell Jr. They're like sunning him, right? Like, y'all aren't on our level. You hear Bradley saying in this clip, and this is where I disagree with Bradley, is he's saying Boots is down here and Bud's up here, and Boots shouldn't even be calling him out. No, call him out. Call him out. That's fine. That's fine. But put in the work in the meantime. But I don't want to see people say, look, Bud's above this fight, that fight, that fight. No, Bud, if Bud's going to stick around, he needs to fight those fights. I'm all for Bud versus Tim Tszyu. And if he doesn't fight Tim Tszyu, guess what the second fight I'd like to see? Maybe Mel, but if not, Boots. If Boots is willing to come up to 154, fight the fight. Do it, right? I don't want to see Bud continue to do this thing where he's like, I'm above that fight. I'm above that fight. I'm above that fight. You're not. You're not above those fights. The market doesn't say you're above those fights.
Right.
You need to go fight the fights if you're going to stick around. So I don't want to see that type of talk, right? Bud needs to fight the fights if he's going to stick around. If he doesn't get the Canelo fight, which I think both of us hope he doesn't because we'd rather see other fights, he needs to fight the fights. Agreed?
Look, yeah, I agree. First of all, another thing, look, if, again, none of this is offense. I don't take offense to any of this, and it's boxing. I love trash talk. I don't mind when fighters talk trash. That's just me. Okay, but if if you're gonna have Bomac go out there and just say things like, "Oh, these guys are easy," like Bud will take care of them like nothing. Well, if we're gonna talk like that, I mean, then probably you should probably fight them. You know what I mean? If you're gonna talk like that, like because don't say it easily because that doesn't fly here. Like, oh, I'll beat them anyway. That doesn't. It's not like a thing for me, right? If you're gonna beat them anyway, if it doesn't matter anyway, then do it anyway. Like that's how I feel about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't say like I think it's great trash talk saying things like, oh, we'll beat Thurman and Tim Tszyu on the same night, right? That's good and all, but when a time comes that the fight's presented to you when it's really good money and you don't have any other options, then maybe you should take the fight. If it's that easy, if it's like taking like Calix, if you could make 15 million doing something easy, like you're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you do it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Because look, if it's not the only look, I get it. He wants a Canelo fight, but look, everyone understands. Okay, getting the like David Benavidez when we interviewed him, he said, like, look, I understand Plant trying to get the Canelo fight. I don't mind him fighting Canelo first before he fights me. He said it. Like, he's like, of course he's gonna go for Canelo fight first. After the shenanigans that Jermel and his team pulled on Tim Tszyu, even Tim Tszyu said, I understand. I mean, it's Canelo. It's a big fight. I probably would have done it too, right? Everyone understands that that's the bag. But if you don't get the Canelo fight, then look, there's two options for you, bud. Either fight the fights that are there or step aside, buddy, because we're going to move on. Look, that's the way I see it. And I love Bud. Bud's one of my favorite fighters.
Me too.
But I don't want to wait and hold up anything for anybody. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yeah, the thing that I disagree with when I see guys go off on this stuff, and he's saying Bud's not going to take anything less than 15 million, all that stuff. I think Bud's going to get his money regardless. I think he knows where to get his money. He knows how to get his money. But I don't agree with this notion all of a sudden that since they're saying what 650, whatever they're saying they did Bud versus Errol at the box office pay-per-view, that all of a sudden Bud is his pay-per-view draw. Because I think outside of Canelo, Bud can't headline a pay-per-view that would do 400,000 plus pay-per-view buys. I don't believe he can. I don't believe he can. So I just don't agree with this notion that he's this box office pay-per-view attraction. I love him as a fighter. I've been pushing him for a decade on YouTube. I think he's arguably pound for pound best fighter in the world, but we're talking about pay-per-view now. And they're using the pay-per-view thing as an excuse as to why he's above this guy and that guy. That's where I have a problem because if the Canelo fight,
pay scale argument.
Yes, if the Canelo fight doesn't materialize, then guess what? You have a guy who is now not a pay-per-view attraction. And I think Bud knows that. Bud knows that if I do 650 against Errol and then all of a sudden I fight Canelo and we do 1.5, 2 million pay-per-view buys, I'm going to be obviously swimming in money, but I'm going to be viewed as also a prize fighting bonanza type of pay-per-view attraction. But if he goes and fights a Tim Tszyu and Boots, we love those fights. I actually love those fights better than the Canelo fight. But the pay-per-view buys are not going to be there for those fights that way. Those were probably in the range of 300,000, 250,000. It's still good. And they're still going to make a lot of money. But Tank, same thing. People view Tank now as this pay-per-view bonanza attraction, but I got news for you. He's not going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys against anybody not named Ryan. And they use that. This is the problem I have with it, is they use the 1.2 million pay-per-view buys as to why he's above fighting Devin, he's above fighting Teofimo. And I don't want to see the same thing from the Bud fans. I don't want to see them say, well, he did 650 against Errol and Boots has never sold a pay-per-view, so therefore he's above Boots and doesn't have to fight that fight. Look, if he doesn't get the Canelo fight, he's got to fight somebody. So if it's not going to be Canelo, it's not going to be Mel. Fight Tim or fight Boots. Let's go. Let's get something
I agree.
moving.
Look, what sold, like people need to understand this. Everything has to be put in perspective, okay? Bud Arrow was a 6-year in the making, long overdue, over marinated fight. Okay. Yep. Look, I'm not scoffing at the numbers. They're solid numbers, but it did about the same as Canelo versus Jermell. Okay. Yep. A fight that was put together last minute. Let's just put that in comparison. Really good gate, really good numbers, but for a fight that was billed as some day of reckoning, a day we've been waiting for, a fight that was billed as one of the greatest welterweight matchups of all time. It did good, but it fell short of like other great welterweight fights, like Pacquiao. The obvious ones, Pacquiao, Mayweather, obviously. But okay, somebody may say, okay, that's unfair. Those guys were big mega attractions. Fine. De La Hoya, Trinidad, which didn't take 6 years, by the way. It felt like forever at the time, but it wasn't that long. Like they were fighting other guys, by the way, real tough opposition. They fought each other. It did 1.4 million back before the digital age, right?
Yeah.
So that's just and before somebody comes to me, it's always the same old Calix. It's always the same old. When somebody doesn't succeed in boxing, oh, no, it's not that it was over marinated, and maybe it's just that Bud and Crawford aren't as big of draws as those other guys were. No, it's the boxing fan. The boxing fan's to blame because they steal everything and whatever dumb argument you want to make. I don't know about you, Calix. I remember plenty of people I knew back in the day had the black box, and you know what I mean? They would steal the events back then too, and all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know plenty of people that would just watch it with the scrambled TV and shit and just listen to it. I knew people that watched it in many different ways, right? It is what it is, but there's always been stealing and pirating. And there's people that used to steal the satellite TV and get all the channels for free, including pay-per-view, right? It used to happen all the time, and they would just switch out the cards or whatever. So it's always been a thing. Like when a business falls short on something, it fell short on something. My point is this. Crawford, you don't got 6 years to marinate another fight. That's number one. Right? And that one was organic, by the way. You had another welterweight champion that people felt that maybe poses a threat to you, and it wasn't really his fault, but we waited forever to make that fight happen. Okay? He's at a point right now where he's got to take whatever they give him, man. Whatever's available, that is. You have options, Crawford, but like they're there though. Canelo's first dibs for you, I get it. But if Canelo's a no-go, Crawford has a couple out. He could go to 147 and fight Boots. That's a really good fight. He could fight Tim Tszyu at 154, right?
He could still fight Mel.
He could challenge Maul at 160 for the 160-pound belt. He could fight Adames, and all of a sudden I bet the WBC will strip Maul. Like, you know what I mean? Just for that. He's got options, right? He could fight the other dude from Kazakhstan. What's his name again?
Tiafimo. He could call Tiafimo's bluff too. Janabek, but he could call Tiafimo's bluff too.
I'm just saying he's got, like, if he's willing to go to 160 fight Canelo, that tells me you have options at 160, 154, and 147. And yes, Tiafimo's another good one. And you know what? I'm going to say this right now. And I haven't texted the dad in a while. I'll probably text him soon. I want to talk to Teofimo's dad and maybe bring him on the show. But I'm just going to be just transparent. I don't think his son could beat Terence Crawford. I don't, right? Mm-mm. But I'll also say this. I don't disagree with you when you say you wouldn't mind seeing the fight. Yep. I just wouldn't. Because guess what? Could you imagine? Just try to imagine. I know it's going to be hard to imagine, Calix. Imagine the feeling you would have. Let's say it's like round 4 or 5, right? And you're like, Teal's winning this fight. What the fuck's going on? Could you imagine that feeling? You're like, what the fuck's going on? This is the guy that...
And it wouldn't shock me.
It's just one of those, like, Crawford can't get off. And I don't see that happening, but could you just imagine how crazy that would be? How mind-blowing that would be?
Teofimo's crazy enough of a bastard to pull that off.
Teofimo is outclassing Crawford. You're saying you wouldn't be shocked? It wouldn't shock you,
Yeah.
bro. This would be me. Like,
Dude, I don't mind that fight. I don't mind that fight.
because like there is a little bit of that. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna sound crazy to people, right? And maybe you felt the same thing, Alex. Like my brain is telling me, oh, Crawford destroys him. Like that's an easy fight for Crawford. That's what it's telling me. That's how I would bet Crawford by knockout, bro. Okay, that's where my money would go. But there's also like a little voice in the back of my head saying, "Oh, he's gonna shock the fuck out of you." Like you know what I mean? Like it's like, what the fuck? Wait a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if? What if it's like round one? Just round one, no big deal. Crawford always starts slow, and then just wait till he goes southpaw. Then he goes southpaw, nothing changes, and he's just outclassing Crawford. And we're at round 4, round 6, and then it's round 9, and we're like, Crawford needs a knockout to win. What the fuck's going on? Like, knock him out. I don't want to hear this dude talk for fucking like he'll be unbearable if he outclasses Crawford, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Now, well earned though. It's what it is.
Yeah.
If he let me tell you something. If he outclasses Terrence Crawford, I'm buying that book, The Way of the Water, whatever the fuck it's called. What was that book you was reading? Be like water. I'm gonna stand like this everywhere I go. I'm gonna be Zen. I'm gonna be all that stuff. If he beats Crawford,
People act like that's the greatest advice ever,
no,
too.
bro,
Like,
because
be like water.
look, this was to a lesser degree, but after the performance of Martin, right?
Uh-huh.
It was like people were just convinced Taylor was going to destroy him.
Yeah.
And the odds showed that. Like Taylor was a big favorite. Even though you and I felt like, well, if Tito shows up, like he could win this fight, but like the odds makers didn't feel that way, right?
No.
And you and I kind of just went on the side of, I don't know, he's not all there. We just went that way, right? But
yeah,
look, even at its best, I don't think Tito could win. But I feel like every time, like when the stage is high, right? When the lights are bright and when everyone's counting Tio out is when he shows out, you know? And that's the little voice in the back of my head. Like, are you sure about that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think, like, I'm just saying, like, and that's going to make the fight intriguing, to be honest.
Yeah. So just to wrap this topic up, when it comes to Bud, I get the complexity of it. And I get how fighters who are jerked around for most of their career, or they feel they're jerked around, can find themselves on the other side of the table and get a big win and start to
froze for like
use
3
that
seconds
power
there.
against everybody else, right? They flip the table. Oh, my bad. What I was saying was, when it comes to Bud Crawford, I understand why fighters get spurned at this point in their career or feel a certain type of way because they feel like they were jerked around for a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
And particularly Bud Crawford, when it comes to Errol Spence, he felt like he was on the wrong side of the street for so many years. Obviously, he feels like he was wrong, whether that's right or not, whether it's correct or not when it comes to Top Rank. So now he feels like he has the power and he's going to wield it against the world. Fair enough, because fighters have done that in the past. Miguel Cotto was like that, right? Miguel Cotto was B-sided by certain fighters, and then when he won some big fights, he A-sided a Sergio Martinez. He even A-sided Canelo in their fight. People forget that. The catchweight was Cotto's idea. The stuff that was used for that fight was Cotto's idea. So fighters will do that late in their career and start to leverage that power. What I just don't want to see is fighters and their fans feel like they're above certain fights, whether we like it or not. It's a sad reality of this. Benavidez and Boots Ennis haven't moved the way we want them to move for most of their career. Benavidez has righted that ship in 2023, right? But the reality of the situation is they're still in the top 3. Benavidez is number 1 for me when it comes to a Canelo fight, right? And whether we like it or not, Boots Ennis is top 3 or 4 when it comes to Bud. I still want to see the fight. I don't like how he's moved, but the talent level is still intriguing enough. And when I look at the options, I'd rather see other fights than Canelo versus Bud. Mel's been inactive, or he's going to be inactive after the Canelo fight, I believe. So Tim Tszyu or Boots Ennis, give me one of those fights. Give me one of those fights. I'm not going to sit here and whine and moan about oh, Boots hasn't been moving, so he doesn't deserve those fights. Now, let's make the fight. Let's just make the fight. Let's just all get together and make the fights that
Why
make
don't a
sense.
lot of those same people say that about guys that want the Canelo fight?
Exactly. And another thing too, D-Style, is I don't want to see these dudes explain away how, okay, Benavidez isn't worth it to you because he doesn't do pay-per-view buys, but then Ryder is acceptable and Mel is acceptable. Wait a second. Why are those guys acceptable and Benavidez is not? And the same thing with the Bud crowd. Look, Boots doesn't sell pay-per-view buys. I get it, but who else is he going to fight if it's not Canelo or
right.
Mel?
You're right.
Let's just do the fights. Come on, let's just stop with the mental gymnastics and do the fights.
By the way, do you remember when Cotto he beat the what was the Australian's guy name again? The Cotto middleweight. He defended his belt.
Oh,
I don't remember his name. He lost to Barker as well, but anyway, after that win, was it Gil?
Yeah, Gil. Daniel
so he beat Gil, right? And then they're asking Cotto about like the weight and like what's up with the catch weight. And then Cotto like, no shame, bro. Your boy had no shame. He's like, you think I'm a middleweight? You think I'm a middleweight? I'm not. Like, it's just like, why are you the middleweight champion? Like, what's going on over here? So here's the thing.
And when they asked my boy about Gennady Golovkin, see, K. He forgot English when Gennady Golovkin's name came up. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
He also said he did the whole yes, it's a sport, but it's also it's a business, and doesn't make business sense for me. Like, just like Cotto really became a diva a little bit towards the end of his run. But look, at the end of the day, Cotto paid his dues, and he got to that point. How he got to that point, right? So it just is what it is. I'm not condoning it. I'm just putting that out there. But here's the thing. In Canelo's case, right? I think Canelo was so confident that he would win that fight, right? By the way, it was a very competitive fight. I think probably more competitive than Canelo thought it would be. But nonetheless, I think Canelo was like, I'm going to win this fight. So I'm going to give Cotto whatever he wants right now, right? Because it's first of all, it was a legacy fight. It was a big name for Canelo to have on his resume. He would become lineal champion by beating him. A lot of upside. So he gave up the lion's share of the money. He gave Cotto the weight because I think Canelo kind of knew it's not going to. Realistically, the weight didn't affect Canelo. It might have affected the bigger middleweights, but not Canelo. And so that's why he took it. And I think that's a lesson, right? Even in the Mayweather situation, like Canelo kind of got screwed over with the money, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But he knew fighting the number one pound per pound fighter is going to grow my profile. And he was right.
Austin Trout fight, right? He got screwed over with the money and still fought the fight.
And he still fought the fight. But guess what? Look at all that investment, banking on the back end, being confident on his, like, he's like, I'm going to beat Miguel Cotto. And after I beat him, I'm going to have all the leverage in the world. Right. And look at what he did after that. And I think that look at where he is now. All right. A lot of these fighters, what I'm trying to say is they could kind of learn from that a little bit. Okay. Just
they should.
Shakur. Maybe he should have just taken what Haney offered you, brother.
Yeah.
Or called his bluff on it at least. If you were confident you were going to beat him. Like, I'm just saying. All right. If you weren't confident you were going to beat him, maybe you made the right decision. I don't know, but it we'll see. But a lot of these fighters are in positions to look at Haney when he went to Australia, right?
Yep.
If Haney was like, no, I don't need to sign a rematch clause. That's bullshit. Like, and he doesn't get the fight, and then he never becomes the undisputed champion. It just is what it is, right?
Yep.
So for me, a lot of fighters can learn from that. Look at even Mayweather, believe it or not. He didn't get the lion's share in the Gotti fight. Okay, but he wanted to be on pay-per-view. That was his first pay-per-view fight, and then he did not. He could argue he didn't get a good deal in hindsight, in a way, in the De La Hoya fight.
I know. What was the split in that fight? It
wasn't a split. I think he got 20 million flat.
Yeah,
like, which at the time did sound like a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie, but in hindsight, after what the fight generated, it is kind of like, whoa. But it is what it is. But guess what? Look at his profile. Look at how his profile grew after that. Yep. Okay. So that's it.
Yep. Don't get in the weeds with deals. Played a long-term game. Edwin Castillo, $2 super chat. Tio is a liar. He immediately fight Bud per the WBO, and he can politic for that. He can. So we'll see if he does. I wanted to bring this up real quick and appreciate that. Edwin Castillo, appreciate that super chat. Let me get this down so I can share this real quick. This is the pound for pound list 20 years ago.
God, bro. God.
This is a pound for pound list 20 years ago. Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, Costa Tszyu, Eric Morales, James Toney, Antonio Tarver. What's the first thing that flies off the radar at you? That is a strong list. It's all Hall of Famers. I mean, my God, look at that list. That is a beautiful pound.
What strikes my is like if you have a prime Eric Morales at 8, like goddamn, you know what I mean? If you got Floyd Mayweather was a hell of a talent. What year was this again?
03. He's in his prime.
Oh, the Mayweather was a beast at this time, and he's number 5, bro. Like this is and people, and it also shows you like people forget how good Mosley and De La Hoya were in their prime.
Yep.
And Hopkins, I believe this is probably fresh after the Trinidad victory and all that.
Look at Pacquiao at 6.
Pacquiao was making like Pacquiao was just. I'm trying to remember Pacquiao around this time. Was this after his fights with Marquez and Barrera?
I'd have to look it up.
Something like that. So
Tarver's working his way up before he fights Roy Jones.
Yeah, Mosley at this time, I believe, was still undefeated. I think Mosley he had not fought Vernon Forrest yet. Keep in mind, Vernon Forrest is not on this list, and he was around at the time.
Yep.
There's still a lot of great fighters not on this list, Calix. Juan Manuel Marquez is not on this list right now. Barrera still had another little run in him. He's not here yet. He's not there at the moment.
Yep.
So there's a lot of really good fighters not on this list. Jermaine Tater would come along a little later, and Winky Wright's not on this list. Just think about that. So I think this would have been around a time, like I guess De La Hoya beat Vargas. Is that I'm thinking it was around that time. And then Mosley, I'm not sure. I think was this when Mosley was at 154 and Forrest had lost to Mayorga?
I don't think he's there yet.
No, yeah, okay, it's somewhere around there, but nonetheless, look at this list, bro. Holy shit. And let me tell you this.
That's just 20 years ago.
Let me tell you this right now. Roy Jones in his prime would be number 1 pound for pound on any list in the last 50 years, bro.
So Mosley had just beat De La Hoya. And the year before.
It was controversial, right? Well, first or second fight?
That was the first fight, I believe. And the year before, Mosley had just lost to Vernon Forrest twice.
Okay,
you know why Vernon's not there? You know why Vernon's not there? Yeah, he lost to Mayorga twice.
Okay. So De La Hoya lost a disputed loss. I felt De La Hoya won that fight, but I guess they were like, well, we're not going to punish De La Hoya too much, right? So they brought him down to 4. Mosley was 3. Sounds about right. I mean,
that was after the second De La Hoya fight. So just think about this. Just look at Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley loses to Vernon Forrest twice, but then beats De La Hoya in the rematch. And then the next year he fights Winky Wright twice and loses.
And that's when he drops off, yeah.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, a year and a half after that, he fights Fernando Vargas twice and beats him. So that just shows you, though, that these guys are banging it out. They're fighting each other.
He beat Vargas twice. He ended up beating a kind of a young Collazo. People didn't really know who Collazo was at the time, but he ended up being a pretty tough dude. A lot of people felt Collazo beat Haddon and Berto. And
Mosley almost beat. He was in that fight with Cotto, too. At the Garden.
That's a disputable fight. I thought Cotto edged it out, but you could argue it for Mosley. And then, of course, Mosley shocked everybody with that big Margarito win. I think he was back in the list, like in the lower end. But here's the thing. This is unbelievable, bro. Look at this. This is crazy.
And the reason I bring it up is I'm debating whether if Junto wins on Saturday, he'll be number 10 on the list. I just look at the list now compared to the list 20 years ago. And I don't want to be accused of a guy that's nostalgia and stuff like that. But I look at the quality of victories on this list up until this certain point in time, not only the talent level, but the resumes that they had. And the guys on the list now, particularly on the bottom part of that list, we look at Beterbiev and Bivol as great fighters, but neither one of them have any type of resume and story that these guys have.
Right.
I think there's been I don't even know what to call it. It's the fighters let's just call it what it is. They're not as great now as they were 20 years ago.
Well, I'll say this. I just want to mention this really quick before we get to that. The top 5 All-American fighters, 9 and 10 American. That means 7 of the 10 are American fighters, right?
Yeah.
Eric Morales, still North America. So 8 of the 10 are from North America. Okay.
Yeah.
Only Katsu, Manny Pacquiao are outside of the U.S. or outside of the continent. And then let's just think about that. I want you to think about that. U.S. and Mexico, 8 out of the 10. And then you have only 2 outside of the U.S. And these are 2 all-time greats, by the way. It took 2 all-time greats like Pacquiao and Katsu to get there, right? Now just think about this. Today, do I have a way to pull up the list for today?
Ring Magazine has 5 of the top 10 are American.
Okay.
And 7 of the top. Wait, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So half of the list is American, and then you got 1 Mexican fighter. So 6 of the top 10 is either U.S. or Mexico.
So it's not that big of a difference.
But keep in mind, Errol Spence is on the list, and nobody's going to agree with Errol Spence being on a pound for pound list right now, and Tank Davis as well. So,
but what I will say is this: with guys like Errol Spence still being on the list, and with guys like Jamal not being stripped of the belt by Mauricio Suleiman, I'd be remiss to agree with the people that come out and they say things like, "Oh, there's a bias against the American fighters. They're trying to push these foreign fighters." And no, I think there is still a little bit of a I don't want to say it's an outright bias, but just a little bit of a bias for the American fighters still. Okay.
No,
because Spence shouldn't be there. Okay.
No.
So I'll just say that. But I don't know, man. Look at that. Look at how many, look at that top 10.
ESPN has 4 American fighters on their top
4, and how many? Just Canelo?
Yeah, just Canelo. So 5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that's half. So I'm just saying, man, like this is a very impressive list. What else can I say? I mean, holy shit.
That's when I saw it, I was like, good Lord.
Keep in mind, there was still I believe Corey Spinks, who was pretty good at the time, was around. Zab Judah, he did have the loss of Kashizu, but he was lurking around. You had a lot of good fighters at the time. So Ricky Haddon was on his way up. So I am very, very, very impressed with this list. And I will say, it looks so good not having Eric Morales on that list. You know what I mean? Like just you know what I mean? I'm just saying. Look at it. Look at Eric Morales saying we don't have Antonio Barrera. I'm sorry, Antonio Barrera not being on the list. Beautiful,
hater,
beautiful list.
Hater.
But he still went 2-1. By the way, he beat Barrera on the second fight. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah,
put that out there.
A lot of people are going to agree with you on that. Let me get to this super chat real quick. I saw it. Let me pull it up. Nando, shout out to Nando. I'll never forgive Reluctant Roy for putting up BS financial split demands in order to avoid a prime Hopkins coming off the Trinidad victory. I remember those guys yelling at each other, 150-50, 160-40. 60-40, 60-40. Remember Roy was saying, 60-40, you get your ass whooped. 60-40, you get your ass whooped after his fight on HBO. So Bernard was about to fight on Showtime, and they're yelling at each other. They're fighting the same night. So yeah, I agree.
That would have been a big fight, by the way. That fight would have been. It would have been boring as shit, by the way. But like it ended up being. We got it way too late.
It would have. Remember how sad that rematch was when they did
it was terrible, and nobody wanted to see it at the time. Roy had been knocked
No.
out several times. Hopkins was kind of already, but I will say this: Hopkins and Roy. I just think HBO made a mistake, put him in a position to try to negotiate live on the air, and that should have been handled behind the scenes, and they could have maybe gotten it done. But when you have a guy saying 60-40, 60, like egos get involved, and he doesn't want to admit that he's less than when it comes to the financials, and it's, I think that kind of helped derail the fight from happening. But it is what it is.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts: that fight would have done 400,000 at the time. Pretty solid numbers. We didn't get it though. Not really. I really don't have any final thoughts. Just the activity matters, and these guys should stay active and go out there and create your legacy, and don't wait on.
Yes.
Just don't be waiting around and hoping you get selected, and then complain that you weren't selected. You know what I mean? If you're gonna wait to be selected, then it is what it is, man. Like go out there and get it. Is what I would say.
Yep. Go out and get your own legacy. If you're a young lion and the old lion is not paying attention to you, make them pay attention to you through fights. Just go mow down other lions in the area, and so the old lion has to pay attention to you and has to address you at that point. And if you're the old lion, don't act like you're above fighting the young lions if you're going to stick around for a while. So that's where I'm at with that. Roundtable on Bee's channel on Thursday night, right? Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow 7 p.m. Eastern. That's on Ringside Reporter. Make sure you guys are there.
Peace. God bless everybody. Later.